Hey, thanks for dropping in on John Steigerwald now and then. Listen, if you know where Skip Bayless lives, you got to give one of his neighbors a call, and they got to drop in on Skip. He's got some serious mental issues going right now.
I am worn out from watching the first 3 rounds of the NFL draft. Pick after pick after pick, starting with the second overall pick. I was on the edge of my seat waiting for his name to be called because he is him. He is he. He is it. He should have gone first overall. And the NFL should be ashamed of itself for what it has now done over 3 rounds of the draft.
Yeah, that was that was Skip after 3 rounds. He was insane after the first round, and he now, in case you don't know who Skip Bayless is, he's been working for ESPN or I don't know, ESPN, Fox. He works for all kinds of people. He might even be an independent now. I can't watch him, so I don't know. But he's been around a long time, and it's easy for me to criticize him. He makes about $10 million a year. I'm here in my office doing a little podcast. But anyway, he's a guy who runs around wearing a Troy Aikman jersey and wears his love for the Cowboys on his sleeve, and goes on and on about his love for the Cowboys and cries when they lose, and it's really embarrassing for a national journalist to do it. But that's who he is, Skip Bayless, and he's really upset about Shedeur Sanders, who I don't know how he did there for the next 2 rounds until he was drafted by the Browns in the 5th round. But here's some more.
To Shedeur Sanders, I'm worn out because I'm so sickened and I'm so saddened over what this league just did to this kid and in turn to his father. I've been doing this for a long time. You can look at my track record on the draft. I'm pretty good, especially at the quarterbacks, at picking the quarterbacks. I would have taken Shedeur Sanders first overall, and
Well, here's the thing there, Skip. They didn't take him first overall, and he was drafted in the 5th round. And so there's two things here. Either you are completely wrong about his ability to play quarterback, or he is one of the biggest asshats ever to set foot on any athletic field. Because if he's as good as you say, and nobody wanted him until the 5th round when the stupid Cleveland Browns picked him. I could have seen the Steelers taking him, and that would have been, I don't think that would have been the worst thing. Give him a shot. The circus would have been bad, and it's probably a good idea good for them that they didn't. But it wouldn't have been a disaster, I don't think, if they had, or I wouldn't have considered it a disaster if they had. Who knows how it's going to turn out for whoever would have ended up with him? But it's going to be the Browns. If there's any team in the NFL that doesn't need a quarterback circus, they had Deshaun. They, they paid Deshaun Watson $250 million. He was being sued by 22 women for some kind of sexual assault or harassment or whatever it was. He liked happy endings at massage parlors, apparently. So now they want to bring this guy in and Skip. So Skip you can't have it both ways. Either they're wrong in their evaluation of him, or he is a total asshat, so much so that he turned off all those teams that if what Skip is saying is true, they decided to turn down one of the best quarterbacks anybody has ever seen. Here's more.
I dug in on this before the college football season even started. I would have taken him 2nd overall if I were the Cleveland Browns. I definitely would have taken him 3rd overall if I were the New York Football Giants. It was outrageously obvious that he's the best thrower of the football in the draft. He's the best pure passer in the draft.
No, it's not. I don't think that's obvious to anybody. I don't think that's obvious to anybody, Skip. Um, but I watched his highlights and I didn't see that. I didn't see a bad quarterback necessarily, but I didn't see anybody who knocked my socks off. And a lot of players have been drafted with some bad baggage because they were so ridiculously talented. I think this might be a sign that maybe he's not as talented as a lot of people would like to believe or like to say. But I don't know. Do you think maybe Skip needs to just calm down a little bit? I mean, it's um, it's only football, Skip. I mean, seriously.
He's the toughest college quarterback I have ever witnessed. Over and over, watched every snap he took for 2 years at Colorado. The most deadly accurate thrower of the football in all of college football has not been drafted over 3 rounds. The clutchest quarterback I saw in all of college football, again and again and again, has not been drafted for 3 effing rounds.
I don't know. Is it me or do you think maybe Skip needs an intervention there? How can anybody get that upset over something like this? It's actually a great story if you're a journalist, which he's supposed to be. It's a great story, and it's a good controversial topic to weigh in on. But to get this emotional about it, this guy's he's this far away from breaking down and sobbing because this kid didn't get drafted where he thought he should have been drafted. So here's the thing for Shedeur Sanders and his old man. First of all, his dad was on national television as far back as January saying that he was going to decide which teams that his son would not play for if they drafted him. He actually said that. So what does that say? I don't know if he released a list. I don't think he did. But what does that say if to these teams who may have thought about drafting him, if not in the first round, maybe the second, maybe the third? But they heard what his old man said, and they said, well, maybe we're one of those teams that his old man's not going to let him play for. And so it's a circus for any team that drafts this guy. Imagine drafting this kid, which the Browns did, and Deion Sanders coming around and criticizing the coaches, going on national TV and criticizing the coaches if he ends up being, on the practice squad or the third string, or if he doesn't start. It's just not something that a team needs. Not for a kid who is not as good as Skip Bayless says he is. But here's the thing about the whole issue. This is one of those things that I like because it kind of intersects with, it's sports intersecting with culture and politics, which I like to do in my later years. This is a gigantic example of the soft bigotry of low expectations. Okay, imagine a white kid showing up on draft day with a brace a necklace that's this big with his logo on it that's part of his marketing campaign. I think maybe Johnny Manziel was the closest thing to a person to having done that. I guess he had some kind of a trademark for Johnny Football before he got drafted or something like that. And you see what happened to him. But because he's a black kid and he wears this ridiculous, ugly, stupid, immature, worthless, useless necklace, you're not allowed to criticize him because if you do, you're a racist. But if a white kid did it, people would fall down on the floor laughing about how stupid it is, And the reason is because it's the soft bigotry of low expectations. He's a black kid. That's what those black kids do. That's part of their culture. You can't make fun of them. You're a racist if you say it's stupid. So kids, especially black kids, of course, should be learning something from this. They should understand that wearing the jewelry like that because you can afford it doesn't make you cool. It doesn't make you better than anybody else, and it's not something that you should rub in people's faces. And here's the thing, I knew Franco Harris pretty well. I mean, we weren't buddies or anything, but I covered him and ran into him for 30 years, but 40 maybe, at 50 actually. But anyway, Do you realize that Franco Harris never wore his Super Bowl rings? He had 4 of them, if I'm not mistaken. He never wore them because he hated the way, and this goes back a long time. He hated the way he saw black kids putting too much emphasis, too much value in stupid things like ugly jewelry. So he wouldn't even wear his Super Bowl ring. And if anybody asked him about it, that's what he would say. I'm trying to show the kids that the jewelry, you shouldn't be running around thinking that what kind of a ring you're wearing or what kind of necklace you're wearing, that makes you cool or makes you better than anybody else. That was Franco Harris. Somebody needs to get a hold of Shedeur Sanders and his old man for that matter and tell him to shut up and just show up in Cleveland and play his ass off. And it would be great if he proved everybody wrong and became Rookie of the Year in 2025. I don't think that's going to happen, but that's what he should do. Just shut up. And if you want to be a role model for kids, not that there's any reason to believe that he would want to do that, he or his dad, stop with this stuff. The jewelry and the self promotion and the logos and decorating an office, a room, I should say, for the day that you're drafted, so that you can show up in there and have your name on the wall and your logo, your marketing slogan, legendary. This guy had his number retired, as I mentioned earlier on an earlier podcast. He didn't deserve to have his number retired. He didn't do enough to do it, and so he actually should have been embarrassed when they said they were going to retire his number, and he should have said, you know what, I think you might be pushing a little bit. Why don't you just let it go? If you want to retire it after I go to the NFL and become a star and make the Hall of Fame, and you want to go back and do it, but please, I don't deserve it. But that would make way too much sense. So let's listen to a little bit more of Skip Bayless here.
Of the draft. Why is that? Is it about football or is it personal? The NFL should be ashamed because I don't know what you want to call this. Shedeur and his father got blackballed, or if you want to call it whiteballed, call it whiteballed. Whatever it was, they got balled out. They got voted out. It's like a secret memo was distributed. Don't take him. Let's teach him a lesson. Let's teach Dion a lesson. You can't act like that.
Well, what would be wrong with that? Teaching him a lesson that maybe it's not a good idea to act like that. And not that he's the first guy to do it and he's not going to be the last, but maybe it turns teams off. It turns coaches off. They look at that and they say, you know what? He might even be the best quarterback out there, but I see this other kid that's, that much below him and comes without the circus. I'll take that kid. What is wrong with that? What is that, racist, or is it just smart business? And by the way, as I said earlier today, there were plenty of black coaches and maybe a few black personnel people who passed on this kid. So to start dragging out the race card, that's not going to work. Well, it'll work for a lot of the people in the liberal media, but it's stupid. So it's not race. It has nothing to do with race. It may have something to do with culture, and a culture that's promoted, and it's a culture that's identified with a certain race, and maybe that, again, gets back to the soft bigotry of low expectations, that you're supposed to be clownish, and it's okay if you're clownish. If you're a young black man, you can have an unbelievably ugly necklace around your neck, and people will think you're cool. So maybe there is a lesson to be learned, and yeah, it was personal. Let's finish up with this idiot.
It's got to be personal because it cannot be about football. If we're just doing football, and my friend Mel Kiper has been doing this almost as long as I have, if we're doing football, Mel Kiper, who's no fool, had Shedeur Sanders ranked 5th overall on his big board, one notch ahead of Cam Ward. I had him first. So if it's not football, what is it? Are there racial undertones here? Racist undertones? You be the judge. Racism is so hard to sort of grasp and prove, but it just stinks.
Um, you knew he was going to get to the racism. It's racist. Okay. Again, Mike Tomlin passed on him. I'm pretty sure Mike Tomlin is a black man. He passed on him. Was it racist if he looked at this kid and said, you know what? He's pretty good, but I'm not. I don't want that. We don't need that circus here. This, by the way, this went on for like 15 minutes with Skip. Let's finish up with this.
Smells of racist undertones, of too many white people in charge in this league who just roll their eyes at both father and son at Colorado. I think it's personal because I think they said, we're going to teach Dion a lesson because you can't have a DJ in the locker room before games and at halftime. I think they said, let's teach the father a lesson that you can't let the kid make $3 million a year in college football and drive 3 or 4 different exotic cars and drape himself with all kinds of NFL style high-pick jewelry, superstar jewelry.
Yeah, I think I mentioned that thing about the jewelry. Have you had enough of this guy? Let me get rid of him here. And there's another guy who's out there. He happens to be black. He's a former NFL player. And his name is Tiki Barber. And I think he might have a better idea than Skip Bayless did.
This is maybe because of NIL, and trust me, guys, we know that Shedeur Sanders, whether via his father or via the ridiculous amount of NIL money that he made, he got paid,
Right.
like a lot over the last couple of years. And Jay Glazer said something interesting, and it was one of his posts on. I saw it on Instagram. I'm sure he did it on every platform. That said, it used to be that there were flags thrown at kids coming out of college for 1, injury, 2, character issues. But now there's a third one, and it's basically doesn't love football. And that can come in a couple of ways. Like, I'm just here because I'm good at this. I don't love it. I don't want to be great. I'm just good at this, so that's why I'm doing it. Or I don't need to grind to go get paid. Like, the NFL is one of the few sports where unless you're drafted in the top 15,
Right.
you got to earn getting paid.
Yes.
You just don't get paid. You don't just show up and like, hey, I'm a great prospect and I'm going to get called up, and then once my arbitration runs out, they're going to pay me some guaranteed contract and I'm going to be set for the rest of my life.
Could be cut within a year.
You have to earn it in the NFL. And a lot of these kids have come into the NFL rich. Mm-hmm. Right? I mean,
I'm rich.
Right, exactly. I'm rich, bitch. And now I'm even richer because I got drafted in the first round. So I think there's starting to become this little thing to watch. The kids come in and they don't love it. They don't love the grind. They don't want to grind because they're already paid. And they think that, this $4 or $5 million that they have coming out of college is all they're going to need in their life. And they might be right, unless they start buying Ferraris and, iced up chains and everything else. But this is something to watch with kids who sometimes come off as entitled. And if you looked at any of the social media of Shedeur Sanders over the last 2 years, trust me, you see him driving a Bentley. You see him wearing ice out the wazoo. You see him on every social media, commercial post. Does he love the game? And if that's a question, teams are increasingly not going to take you.
Tiki make some sense there? Now, before I go, Mel Kiper, man. If you haven't seen Mel yet, he went absolutely out of his mind because they didn't do what he thought they should do, which was consider Shedeur Sanders the best prospect in the draft and definitely the best quarterback. This is Mel. I don't know at what point this happened during the draft, how early it was when they saw that Shedeur was not going to be considered one of the top two players in the draft and was going to hang around until late Saturday. But here's Mel.
This is not about can you play the position. This is about do we want you to play the position for us. That's what this came.
Why wouldn't they, Lou?
Well, look, that's a whole other discussion that we've had in many different ways for weeks and months now.
This is not one of the toughest quarterbacks you
No, but Mel, this isn't about this isn't about quarterback traits and quarterback characteristics, personal football characteristics. That's not about this. This is personal.
Has he had
and we know that it is.
off the field issue? No, he has not.
Mel, you don't have to sell it to me.
No, but I don't know what we're talking about.
You're right, You're right.
Yes.
You're right, but you know what? Mel, the draft has spoken.
That's right. That's the key, Mel. It's not putting a value judgment on whether those who asked are right or wrong. They did.
Yep.
So now, whenever you're in circumstances in life, whether you like them, whether you don't like them, whether they're fair or whether they're unfair, you might have to deal with them.
That's
and
right.
now Shedeur Sanders has to deal with it. And for whatever reason, whether he played a minute, microscopic percentage, 0%, or it's a legitimate criticism of the way he conducted himself during the draft process, this was the result.
Yeah.
Now he has an opportunity to answer it. I mean, I think yelling at the NFL about it is not
There's not a quarterback. Boomer Esiason was not happy when he was a second round pick. Tom Brady was not happy. They dropped. How'd they turn out?
And you know what? Nobody's arguing
my
that
point
can
is
happen.
the NFL has been clueless for 50 years when it comes to evaluating quarterback. Clueless. No idea what they're doing in terms of evaluating quarterback. That's proof. There's proof of that.
How many
times we know exactly what we're talking about with quarterback? They don't.
Nobody's batted 1,000 there, though.
That's correct.
Right? I mean, I think that's
All that matters now is what happens going forward. We talk about it all the time. There is the evaluation phase, there's the evaluation and selection phase, which we're in right now, and then there's the development and implementation phase. That's where we're heading to right now. That's all that matters for him. Kevin Stefanski, Andrew Berry,
And Lou,
have at it.
quarterbacks now, Reese, you know as well as anybody. College kids now get paid. They're professional. They're getting paid. They're commercial. They're out there. You got to deal with that. If you're the NFL, you got to deal with that. Okay? He's saying whatever he's saying behind closed doors. What's he saying? I want to be the guy. I should be this. I should be that. Deion saying he's the best player in the draft. He's the best quarterback. Second best to Travis Hunter. That's quarterback. Who is it? What quarterback out there didn't think they should have been a high first-round pick?
again, nobody's criticizing what happened. We're saying he has to deal with the reality of the result from it.
Correct.
That's all.
It's Mel, I think I don't know, maybe taking this draft stuff a little too seriously. I know he's spent his entire life, basically, probably about 3/4 of his life, really, dealing with and paying attention to the NFL draft. I mean, he's made a lot of money. I think it's overall he's a happy guy because he probably doesn't feel like he's ever had to do a job where he actually had to work. He probably never felt like he was working because this is the love of his life, evaluating football players. But man, you put those two guys in a room, put Mel and Skip in the room together. Man, there's some serious mental problems coming out of that room. That's some serious issues there for both of these guys. The emotion and everything tied up in what round a college football player goes in the NFL draft. I mean, which gets me to one last thing here. Okay, speaking of that, and that's enough of Shedeur Sanders. The circus will show up in Cleveland soon, probably as quickly as tomorrow. He'll be there soon to show up and talk to the media. Let's see if he's learned anything and if he just shows up and shuts up. See if he does it. But one other thing, this is just me, and I'm sure you've seen this in the draft coverage, and it's going to be in Pittsburgh next year. I'm embarrassed for men everywhere when I see grown men in a crowd at the NFL draft. I don't get going down to sitting outside. In the case of Green Bay, I think it was raining during the second night. I don't get that, putting up with that, the traffic and go so you can watch the draft take place, something you can watch on TV. And anyway, but that's fine if they like doing that. What I don't get is when I see grown men wearing jerseys of their favorite team, replica jerseys with the names of their favorite player on the back, and the camera points at them and they start screaming and yelling, let's go. There's not a game going on. It's the draft. There's nothing to let's go about. It's what I'm trying to picture like. And again, I come from a family. It's pretty obvious that my family was full of sports fans, beginning with my dad and my brothers and all my friends. We were huge, and I mean huge sports fans. We loved sports. We were probably obsessed with it to a certain degree. But we just couldn't imagine. Number one, I can't imagine going to a game with my dad, who I used to watch when I was a kid. He would be sitting there watching the Pirate game on TV while listening to the Steelers exhibition game on the radio. This was before cable TV and every game was televised and everything. Um, the idea that he had season tickets for the Steelers from beginning in 1946, and he went to games when they were terrible. To imagine my showing up somewhere with my dad and being like 12 years old and seeing him in a Steelers jersey screaming at the camera during the telecast of the the NFL draft, I don't know. I don't get it. I just think maybe people need to calm down a little bit, but especially Skip Bayless and Mel Kiper. I'll talk to you tomorrow.